Meet the dog who is considered the greatest police canine in the world. And even that is still underrating him. Over 200 arrests, millions in drug seizures, and with a life story so wholesome, you will understand exactly why this police canine from Alpharetta, Georgia, named Mattis, is the greatest of all time.
Put your hands up! Hands up!
Mattis's journey began as soon as he was a little puppy. He didn't have the typical life of a little German Shepherd puppy at all. Instead, his puppyhood would be filled with elite training. Loud noises, dark rooms, slick floors, and even gunfire to ensure that he would not freak out in chaotic situations. Mattis was born into a professional development pipeline designed to train and mold the most elite dogs in the world. After 2 years, he was transported to the United States where he would stay in a kennel where he would maintain and keep his skills sharp. And eventually, he would meet this man, Mark Tappan. And absolutely no one could have predicted what these two would achieve together. Sergeant Mark Tappan picked Mattis because he noticed his insane drive, like his drive to chase after toys and hunt, which is really important for professional dog trainers because they need dogs absolutely obsessed with getting the job done. But not only was this dog insanely driven, he was also a prodigy when it came to solving problems. Unlike your dog, which gives up after 4 seconds of not getting a treat, this dog's persistence in solving extremely complex problems would make him extremely valuable as a police canine, especially when it came to being tasked with narcotics, which we'll get into. But the last reason that Mark said that he picked this dog was that Mattis, quote unquote, locked in under pressure.
He's very excited. Are you ready? I'm scared. Wait.
Which could be the difference between life or death in police work.
He's fearless. He runs right at the guy. He covers 30 yards in an instant. He saves that guy's life.
Right out of the gate, Mattis would make massive headlines just 2 years into police work, when he was involved in one of the most famous police canine moments in history.
Saturday night, Tappan watched his partner risk his life in the line of duty.
Out of the corner of my eye, I saw my fearless partner here just in full flight.
This is just one of the insane incidents this dog was involved in. His police training immediately began with him getting dual certified to serve as both an apprehension force, which is when these dogs basically go out, attack, and detain suspects. And the second part is narcotics detection or tracking. So he got dual certified in both, and his very first year out on the job, he would be so successful in tracking fleeing suspects, sniffing for narcotics during traffic stops, that he immediately became the most productive officer in the department. But later in his second year on the job, Mattis would become famous across the country after nearly passing away during an operation. October 8th, 2016, it's a Saturday night, and Sergeant Mark Tappan initiated a traffic stop on a vehicle near North Point and Old Milton Parkways. So this is the location it happened, but again, it was at nighttime, so it looked completely different. The car he tried to pull over suddenly sped off through a red light.
Chasing after some guys, canceled the chase a couple times because it was kind of a minor infraction, but he made a U-turn and came right back towards me. And I was like, okay, well, I'll make a U-turn. Wrecks out in a parking lot that a police officer is doing reports in. And there's 2 people in the car. They bail out, start running.
The 2 suspects fled into the darkness, trying to hide behind a restaurant.
And I cut him off. And they see me, they see Mattis, and he hops over this retaining wall. I go to jump over the retaining wall, and I see that the dude's still falling. 30 feet.
Oh, shit.
Like what I thought was 10 feet was 30 feet.
Oh, man.
And so I catch myself, and then I see one of the scariest things I've seen to this day was Mattis leaping over that retaining wall, just frozen in midair with fear in his eyes as he fell 30 feet and landed on the guy.
Now, somehow neither of the 2 suspects were extremely injured during this fall, but sadly, Mattis would suffer a lacerated liver and severe internal bleeding from this. But the fight wasn't over. The second suspect was actually able to escape into the nearby wooded area.
We caught that guy. He didn't bite him because he wasn't on a bite command, so he guarded the guy. I got down there, checked him out, and he seemed like he was okay.
Mattis then began tracking the second, and upon realizing this, the suspect immediately surrendered. The 2 were actually part of a larger organization traveling between Florida and Georgia, committing high-volume thefts. They had a backpack full of around 30 stolen cell phones, credit cards, and IDs. And it wasn't until both suspects were apprehended that Mattis would suddenly collapse on the ground. Up to this point, Mattis had remained in the fight, like the absolute beast that he is. But he was severely injured, and it wasn't until now that Mark and the other officers realized. And he was immediately rushed to undergo emergency surgery, where the vets were doubtful he would survive. But miraculously, Mattis made a full recovery and within just 1 month, was already back on duty. This could have ended his career or his life, and yet Mattis would return stronger than ever, completing insane new arrests, amongst many other incredible achievements. Earlier the next year in 2017, Mattis was officially honored with the Purple Heart of Valor at the department's annual award ceremony for his performance during that October chase. Not only this, Mattis was also named the 2016 Officer of the Year. He was actually the first canine in Alpharetta history to receive this title, which is normally reserved for humans. And Mattis would soon be involved in another life or death situation, where he ended up saving a life.
And so we cut him off, he sees us, and we say, "Let me see your hands." And the second we say, "Let me see your hands," he reaches into his waistband and starts pulling something out.
Where suspects, for one reason or another, tried to trick law enforcement into ending their life, usually by pretending or being an active threat, leaving the officers with no other choice.
He starts pulling something out metallic, we have the right to shoot.
Right.
Instead, I send my dog. He's fearless. He runs right at the guy. He covers 30 yards in an instant. Takes the guy down, and a cell phone comes out. Construction workers around that saw this whole thing, they said, "We can't believe you didn't shoot him." But I would have had to carry that weight with me for the rest of my life.
On another occasion, Mattis even made an apprehension through a chaotic train station. A suspect had been involved in a violent carjacking that led to a high-speed chase with the police. The suspect eventually crashed the stolen vehicle and fled on foot to a nearby train station near North Springs MARTA station. Sergeant Tappan and Mattis arrived on scene as the suspect was already fleeing through the parking lot, and because the suspect was known to be armed and moving towards a crowded area, Tappan quickly deployed Mattis off leash. But in an extremely crowded area of bystanders, the situation was very delicate, whether that be stray bullets or Mattis accidentally engaging the wrong person in the chaos. But Mattis didn't become distracted by any of the screaming or erratic behavior of the bystanders. He locked in on the intended target and instantly neutralized him. This could have been a very different outcome without Mattis there. Now Mattis and Mark would begin an entirely new and very important journey. The wall incident made Mattis a bit of a local celebrity along with his amazing skills. Sergeant Tappan had been updating and posting a bit about his and Mattis's journey, garnering a bit of a community online. Then, in 2019, Mattis would debut as a police canine in the hit HBO show Watchmen, because the production team wanted to utilize local resources for the show, and who better than the legendary Mattis. This would be his first major TV appearance, but it wasn't too much later that Mattis would become widely known across America when he entered America's Top Dog.
I've been in law enforcement for 13 years. I've been a canine handler for 7 years.
Mattis's life story would make him an instant fan favorite, and how well they did in this episode helped as well.
Here they go. They're off to a fast start if you get this door down. Come on.
Here, that's an advantage of a 100-pound dog.
How about? Through the window like it's not even there. So far, size doesn't seem to matter, Nick.
But spiderweb is where bigger dogs get tangled up. Is Team Mattis the next victim?
Mattis says, you're gonna need more than ropes to stop me. 30 seconds into low roll. This could be one of the fastest runs we've ever seen.
And he would make it to the last obstacle nearly 3 minutes ahead of his opponent.
Down.
And whereas the other dog basically failed this bite challenge by not letting go,
Deputy Cole must get Fuse to release and cross the finish line.
With this Belgian Malinois, you're looking...
after 30 seconds, having to go over and remove the dog herself. This was obviously Mattis's specialty.
Now he needs to release and cross the finish line.
Fully, Mulligan! Nay! Mattis! Loose!
Finally releases and crosses the finish line in 1 minute 21.3 seconds. Mattis smoked the dog.
Winning the $10,000 prize and making it to the finals. This would springboard Mattis into superstardom in the dog world and massively boost his social media presence, where Mark was making videos documenting the two. And apart from the absolute wholesomeness we get to see, this led to some really important relationships between the police force and the community, because of course a lot of the time there can be a lot of tension or at least apprehension in the relations between the police and the local community. community. On one hand, the police are there to serve the community, but as we all know, whether it be because of a few bad apples or social media fanning the flames, the public can be very skeptical of the police. However, with Mattis's newfound popularity and heartwarming story, along with a lot of insight into their life and operations, this was able to build a really strong bridge between the police department and the Alpharetta community. They even ended up using their social media influence to raise over $200,000 for charities, and he would inspire and call upon other K9 units in the nation. This would have a massive positive impact across all of the communities. And then Mattis's final journey would begin. In March 2021, Mattis would officially retire from his police duties. And now his full-time duty of just being an amazing house pet would finally begin. The decision to retire Mattis came from Tappan himself, who noticed his partner had a limp in his rear right leg. It was diagnosed as gastrocnemia fibrosis, with the dogs affected typically experiencing lifelong disability. To maintain Mattis's mental and physical abilities, Tappan will keep up with a lot of his training games. Mattis would live out the rest of his life just being a normal dog at home, just playing, eating, and lounging until August 9th, 2025, when Mattis would pass away at home after his long battle with kidney disease. But that's nowhere near where this story ends, as Mattis would touch and inspire millions of people across the world. On this day, thousands of people came together to say what Mattis meant to them. And that is the story of the greatest police canine ever.